The last time we spoke was, I think it would have been the summertime we were saying, a couple months before the record came out. And I'd heard the album then, so it's obviously been locked in for quite a while. How do you
Yes.
feel you've changed as a person since the album was completed?
I think I'm more self-assured, only a bit.
Was that as a result of kind of completing this body of work?
I think so, yeah, because you just get tired of like trying to be like amenable and like please everybody. And I think for a lot of women, especially, like, I often would like hear female artists that I liked in interviews saying like, just suddenly decided that I can't be bothered to like be not as nice, but just as like palatable. And I guess
Catering to other people?
yeah.
Yeah.
So the record's made me more of a bitch. No, it's just, I think, yeah, it's not sustainable. So I think like, and I've just had a really strong female sort of role model in Lucy Rose who signed me. Yeah, and just been around more women and feeling a bit more like, okay, this is a space I can take up. Yeah.
I remember reading an interview with you once too, where you said that you'll know when you first wake up whether today's going to be a day where you can write something or not.
Yeah.
Which was it this morning?
Today it was, yes.
A day that you could
I
write
probably
something.
need to write, yeah. Yeah, I actually don't like that on the road because there's not really much time to do that, and then it feels like I could be writing my magnum opus right now. But yeah, funnily enough, like I haven't been writing for like months. I just haven't like felt like I could. And since I got on the road, I've said
Started
that like
to
I've
come
been
back.
here for months. This is like my 6th day, but yeah, I've suddenly been like, oh, I want to write.
Well, that's something else we touched upon last time too, that you were saying that you'll go through months where you don't really write, and then it's like a listening phase where you're kind of taking stuff
Yeah.
in, and then months where could this be the start of like a burst where you might be on it for a few months? Do you think?
I really hope so, and I think it's coming. Yeah, I've got like 3 weeks off in December, so I'm just going to try and
That little gap before Christmas, try and get.
try and write a record. No, I mean, yeah, I try not to like force it or like book in. I really don't understand how people like can book in writing holidays and stuff because I just can't force myself to write. But yeah, I feel like it's going to hopefully be quite fruitful. I feel like I've got stuff to say.
Do you draw a lot on tour? 'Cause remember last time you spoke about how you would do that in the studio. Do you do that at all on tour?
No, because I mean I would, but I get really car sick.
Ooh.
So like I can't do anything. Like we've got this van this tour that has like TV screens, and it sounds really fancy, but there are like 2 little TV screens, and like it came with games and like DVDs, and I just can't do any of it. I just have to
Gotta close your
stare
eyes and
out
hold
the
them for dear
window,
life.
or yeah, close my eyes. So no, but I would really like to do that. I don't draw enough. But yeah, Eve, my support act, she's been drawing a bit in the van, and I've been a bit jealous.
As well as having car sickness, I know that you have a fear of, not a fear of, but you're unsettled by the idea of going to sleep.
Yeah. Did we talk about that last
We
time?
didn't talk about that last
Oh
time.
God.
Where do you think that's stemming from? What's the script? Because you sing about that on, is it Time Comes in Roses?
Yeah, I
There's
probably
a
sing
line.
about that a lot. I was funnily enough, again, talking to Eve about that today. I really don't know. It's at the risk of this becoming like a therapy session. It's not that like I think anything bad's gonna happen or I think I'm not gonna wake up. It's just like I get really in my head as soon as I start to fall asleep, where I'm like, where am I going? Like, where do I go? I don't like letting go of control. I get really existential and start.
Is it the same kind of cyclical things that come into your head that kind of
Yeah.
you run over and over?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too dark, but it's like I start thinking about like what distracts you from the fact you're going to die? You know, when you're asleep and you've got to turn off all the lights and like, yeah, I sleep with the TV on. It's probably a sign that I need to work on myself.
Yeah,
That I need to be alone.
Listened to an interview with the comedian Norm Macdonald once. He went to his therapist and they were talking about why he gambles. And he
Right.
said, "Oh, you're using it as a distraction to get away from life and thinking about all these deeper things." And he said, "Isn't that what everything is? Everything we're doing is this way to try and just
It's true.
distract it for a little while."
Yeah, yeah. I'm often like talking about how I'm not like very rock and roll. Like I don't like do drugs
You like
and
your
stuff.
home life. You domesticity.
Yeah. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I don't have my vices. And the thing, because that's just not something that comforts me, like getting out of my mind. Whereas like I have other things that are probably equally as destructive that I find comfort in and that I escape via. So
What's your biggest vice?
I knew that was coming. As I was saying it, I was like,
You
don't
teed me
say
up.
that. Yeah. I mean, trash TV is bad because like I watch a lot of crap because it's just one of the only times where I'm like, okay, I
Does it
can
work
just
though? Does it
turn
kind
off.
of distract you? Yeah.
Yeah, it works for me.
Maybe not the worst thing in the world then. Everyone needs
No,
something
I mean,
to...
that-
It's like
that
playing
was-
video games or whatever. It's kind of a waste of time, but it
Yeah.
chills you out for a
Yeah.
bit.
I mean, that was my better one. That was my less destructive one. Make it sound like I have a horrible dark secret, but the sleeping and stuff. Yeah.
There's a line on, I think it's Dolly, where you talk about her romanticising her pain.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's something about crying in the rain.
Yeah.
Romanticising
Yeah.
your pain. How do you prevent yourself romanticising your own pain when it can be such a good fuel for kind of creativity and songwriting?
That's a really good question. That's something I've really struggled with because I think a lot of the time, if I do have writer's block, it comes from that feeling of like a worry about being like self-indulgent and wallowing or romanticizing my pain when other people, are dealing with, not that it's a competition, but I do tend to go to that place sometimes where I'm like, in the scheme of things, like I'm very privileged and like there are so many big issues going on in the world and like I get very existential about it. I'm like, well, how am I helping the world by singing about, my little life? So yeah, I can't remember what your question was, but it does
guess
hinder
most
like
people
creativity.
aren't really doing anything to kind of feed back into things though, on any sort of major level. We're all kind of just contributing a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what kind of stops me like giving it up. And also, like I think I probably spoke to you about last time, I think you can find like connection through quite specific personal things with people, and you don't really know what your song, although like to me my songs are about me, to other people they take on a life of their own and they mean something to them. So
Particularly with like the line we just mentioned on Dolly, where it's quite a broad thing that people can kind of impart their own feelings onto.
yeah,
It's like, it was the kind of Hemingway idea, isn't it, where he used to write so sparsely that he used to talk about it like an iceberg, where you should only reveal 10 to 20% of the plot of the story, and then the audience kind of fill in the rest with their own
Yes,
emotions, and it
yeah.
allows you to forge this deeper emotional connection to it.
exactly. And like funnily enough, like that's something that I have to like kind of remind myself in interviews and stuff, because I'm so open, and then sometimes I'm like, I didn't need to be that explicit about like what like my music is about, and yeah, I think sometimes it's more it leaves more room for connection when you don't give away as much, but that's not my nature. I'm just like, I've met you 5 minutes ago and I'm going to tell you all about my personal life.
One of the other songs in the record, Resolution, you wrote when you were a teenager, I think, correct?
Resolution was on my first record.
First record, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask about that in terms of it came at the end of a period of a writing block, right?
Yeah, I mean, God, that was so long ago. Yeah, it did. And it was just about that.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how... was there a song on this record in the same way that triggered the end of a period of writer's block and it was very important in that respect? Did you have another song on this record that was like a key to kind of unlocking it and that played a role in a similar way, if you know what I mean? One of those songs that feels really important to write.
Yeah, I think Nobody, and that's kind of why I finished the record with it. I wouldn't say it like bookended like writer's block, but it was kind of the opposite in the sense that it bookended like the record. I think it was the last song I wrote, and it felt like during the writing of the record, although I obviously didn't have writer's block, it was like I was trying with each song to get to what I was trying to say, which I didn't really know how to say or what it was. And then with that song, it felt like a resolution, to use the title of the song, like kind of a bleak resolution. but like with elements of hope, I suppose.
So you said Nobody was the last song that you wrote for this album.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Did it change the way you looked at what had kind of come before it? Did it enable you to kind of pick out certain threads?
Yeah, I think it kind of like solidified the idea. It was like it was like my twist at the end by basically acknowledging like myself as an unreliable narrator, and how, because the whole record is kind of around feeling stuck or feeling like you're cycling through those just the same patterns and not being able to kind of escape it, and then Nobody is a resolution but it's not, so it felt like kind of meta. So I think it shone that kind of light on the record once you get to the last
Cyclical.
song. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you kind of come back to the start. Yeah.
What was the last life lesson you learned from songwriting?
Last life lesson. I think it's a really hard question. I think that you can write and form like lyrics and thoughts during the process, that it's okay if you didn't know they were there prior, or that you didn't kind of set out to express. That I said that in such a roundabout way. I'm very tired. But that you can kind of, I always like used to hear people say, oh, you know, I didn't realise what a song meant until after I wrote it. And I was like, it's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? But it's not. Like, it's true. Like
Maybe the meaning changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, although they're saying they didn't know what it meant, it could be they knew what it meant for them at that time, but then when you kind of look back on it in context of what has happened since, it can take on a different role for you.
Yeah, and I think like we don't realise how much of our like experience is subconscious, and how much we're not aware of that we're picking up on. So I think it's again about that letting go and letting what.
It's also what kind of
what's
happens when
gonna
you're going
come
to sleep. You kind of tap into that subconscious a little bit.
Yes, yeah, and I'm having to get to a place where I'm like comfortable letting go of control, and because it's all an illusion anyway. Yeah, and it is the same with being creative. And I think if you have too much control, then you can stifle yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels like quite a nice note to wrap up on. Feels like a fitting end to what we've kind of spoken about. Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.